What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several tips to hopefully help you master these sprites in Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3 easier. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, comment down below which sprite is your favorite this season, and if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it's EvolveJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So, first off, if you aren't really struggling with mastering the sprites, you could just play normally and it's no big deal. But for those of you who are struggling or get annoyed easily when you end up losing progress on leveling a sprite because something eliminates you, or you're just struggling for whatever reason, this video is for you. And I have seen a lot of people kind of complaining about how difficult they feel it is to master the sprites, or in situations where they get it close to being mastered and then somebody eliminates them and they lose all that progress. So for starters, playing on Mondays is going to make this a bit easier, because on Mondays, the sprite XP you get is doubled. So normally for opening a chest or a container, you get 75 XP. On Mondays, you get 150, and just everything you do is going to be a lot easier to level the sprites on Monday. So if you are trying to make like a concerted effort to level up all of them throughout the course of the season, Mondays would probably be the best days for you to be farming them. But even on other days where the XP isn't doubled, I think it is still pretty easy to level the sprites. So the easiest way for you to level the sprites is going to be to land somewhere isolated and not in the direct path of the bus. Like, you want to be completely alone in this area, and then just loot. Typically, landing at a spot like this, you won't be bothered very much. If there is anybody there, it'll be AI. Sometimes maybe an enemy comes here or something, but more often than not, you should be left somewhat alone. And like I said earlier, every container you open, like chests, ammo boxes, vegetable boxes, cash registers, even the fishing pole barrels, they give you 75 XP towards leveling your sprite normally and 150 on Mondays. And so even locations that don't have a ton of chests will often have several of these other containers to make up for it as well. So if you're intentionally opening all of it, you can level up the sprite pretty easily just through that. And ideally, when first zone spawns, you will be in the storm or close to it. But if not, you want to try to make your way into the storm and then still try to find somewhere isolated to loot. So maybe you loot your initial path, your initial little area, and you're like, oh, I'm not in storm yet. Go get a car, or, just use mobility and go into the storm. You're going to want to loot in the storm, because if you're doing this, you're probably not going to be bothered by other players. And a lot of times, even if these other kind of like random locations in the storm, like, a lot of times they won't be looted, but even if they are looted, people typically aren't opening every single container. They're, kind of just going about their day. They'll get their ammo, they'll get their guns, they'll fight other players, and then they'll make their way out of there. So there probably will be vegetable boxes left for you to open, ammo boxes, and even chests. And from looting all this stuff, like your initial area and then going into the storm and loot, you should be able to find med kits. You're going to want to carry the med kits that you do find, or maybe any other white heals, mainly med kits though. You can carry plenty of these, and you want to use them once you're pretty weak. The storm is a 1-tick until I believe 6th or 5th zone. For a decent majority of the game, you're only taking 1 storm damage per second. So you can spend plenty of time in storm looting. Like 3 medkits is 300 white health that you could just spend in storm looting. And even if you don't find very many medkits, you're probably going to find gold from looting, and so you can buy medkits at the vending machines. And so it really shouldn't be difficult at all for you to get these medkits. Heal up in storm, continue to loot in storm, and level up your sprite that way. And this will be a way for you to level the sprite while being somewhat uncontested. Once you're in the storm for a bit and you're deep into the storm, there's probably not very many players back here also looting. You don't want to be totally unaware of your surroundings, but a vast majority of the time you're not going to be bothered when you're in the storm like this, and you're going to be able to easily just loot stuff up and level the sprite up that way. You also can get XP for extracting sprites, so maybe you want to carry some sprites around with you as well to potentially extract them. But I feel like just looting chests, ammo boxes, vegetable containers, all of that is the easiest way to level up the sprite. And it doesn't matter how good or bad you are at the game, you can do this in a somewhat easy way, just being in the storm. Once your sprite is max level, or you want to extract for some reason, like maybe you haven't quite got it max level, but you got it to level 4, you're not really finding much else to loot, and you feel like the storm is about to start hitting hard, you can go extract while in the storm. And you want to be somewhat deep in the storm. You don't want to use the one that's like on the edge of storm, like close to being in the safe area, because if you're close to the safe area, other people might see or like hear the alarm or see you extracting and then still kind of go for you or push you. But if you're deep in the storm, the odds of anybody noticing this is quite low. And the odds of anybody noticing this and then going like super deep into the storm just to prevent you from extracting is also incredibly low. So if you extract deep into the storm, you're probably going to be, you know, somewhat safe while doing so. And so you're not going to really have to worry about losing your sprite that way either. So this is a very safe kind of combat averse way for you to not only level the sprite, but to extract it as well. Because if you're extracting in the play area, a lot of people are going to see that and they're going to come pushing and they're going to try to stop you from extracting. But if you're deep in the storm, you really should not be bothered unless there's another player in the storm doing the same thing, which can happen. You know, anything can happen during a Fortnite match, but the odds of that happening are actually quite low. So you should be, you know, pretty protected, or like the likelihood of running into that is just super low. So if you are also incredibly scared of losing the sprite, you could just hide somewhere randomly until the zone forms and you see where first zone is going to be, and then you go somewhat deep into that storm. But the general play here is just going to be looting up in the storm and then extracting in the storm, because if you're doing both of those things, the likelihood of seeing any players out there is very low. And even if you fail a few times doing this, you really shouldn't be losing a majority of the time. You just got to pay attention to how late in the game you are getting, because once it gets to like a 2-tick storm, that's a point where, you know, out healing the storm can be a bit of a problem. But a 1-tick storm, the game is 1 tick for long enough for you to be able to fully level a sprite that way and also extract it without it really being much of a problem. One of the biggest problems with this, though, is if you are bringing in a rare sprite, if you're bringing in something that's very new, very rare, very sought after, you can make yourself somewhat of a target doing this on Spawn Island, and other people might see you jump out of the bus and then try to follow you. And if they're following you, and it won't really matter if you're going to some isolated area, because if they're following you just to eliminate you and get that sprite, they're probably going to be landing there too. And there's not a lot that you can do to avoid this. There's two main things. The first is going to be try to wear a skin that really isn't flashy or unique. You want to use a skin that looks normal and is also very common. So like the aura skin is a pretty common skin, right? If you're using aura, other players might see an aura jump out of the bus or be somewhat cognizant of like, maybe that was the aura, but they might not be totally sure it was you. But if you're using some bright, flashy skin that isn't used very often, it's going to be easier for other players to see you jump out of the bus and follow you. So you want to use something that looks very basic and something that is a very popular, commonly used skin. And then the other thing is just going to be try to hide on Spawn Island. If you're bringing in like a gummy 0-point sprite or something that's really rare like that, try to go, you know, somewhere isolated on Spawn Island and have your back to like a wall or a bush or a tree or something. That way it's a bit harder for other players to see you. You know, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It's kind of just like random chance at that point if someone sees you before you get to the point where you were hiding. But hopefully just using a common skin does make it a bit harder for other players to see you jump out of the battle bus and follow you. And, you know, maybe jumping late in the bus path can also help with that, because, you know, maybe they saw somebody else that looked like you and they jumped at some point. But that is going to be it for this video. Like I said, most players can probably just play normally, and then the sprite mastery will kind of happen over time. But if you are really struggling with it for whatever reason, just going into the storm and looting, there's so much loot left behind in first zone or deep in the zone that you should be able to easily level up a sprite and then extract it while in the storm and not really have to deal with other players. But let me know what you guys think of that and what your favorite sprite is down in the comments below. If you guys did enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.